Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez. In this episode 470, I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Prez, that is at _Presidente on Twitter and at Presidente on Blue Sky. Prez, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Fun game last night. Definitely could not immediately go to sleep like the old washed up guy I am after that. After that much excitement.
Yeah, the Knicks winning a 114-113 game in Memphis. What I think is the best win of the season by far. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about many things. But before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First, being that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may watch this podcast. If you are, even if you haven't done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can find on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. The Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, the podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Abby's Bows, a podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And you get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Normal, my solo pod, right, rant for the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Konstantin Mechkos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. This comes with a variety of additional benefits, like listening in on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball to NHL and UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. The Knicks win 114-113 in what was a pretty, I thought, we've talked about the Knicks not necessarily providing the right level of intensity and not bringing it consistently, not giving great defensive effort consistently. And while I would say like there's still plenty to clean up in terms of execution defensively, and in particular, I still have no idea what Josh Hart or Karl Anthony Towns are doing at times. The actual effort across the board, even from those two, I thought was significantly better. It was a game that it needed to be because the Knicks did not have their A game offensively. Jalen Brunson obviously makes a huge shot at the end of the game, but he's 9 of 22 for 22 points. Karl Anthony Towns only had 11 points last night. You can go on and on down the list. And it's not just in terms of points, but like Josh Hart only had a 4-rebound game yesterday. The Knicks got owned on the glass, really. So it wasn't that everybody played their best and you just came out and blew the fucking brakes off this team. But they needed to fight. They had to claw. They had to find a way to stay in the game. They needed to get contributions from guys on the bench. Obviously, Deuce McBride, he has 17 points off the bench. I mean, he maybe his best game of the season. I'm not sure, but definitely up there. But, you get the return of Mitchell Robinson, who only played 12 minutes, but really impactful 12 minutes. And then even a guy like Landry Shamet, who, he's obviously had his issues throughout the year, but he comes into the game and plays with the right intensity and matches kind of the physicality of the game. And that's what we've talked about a lot, when they've played Cleveland and really when they played Boston. You haven't felt the Knicks have come out and matched the necessary level of physicality and focus and attention and just effort levels that they were playing with. And again, they didn't get off to a great start in this game, but I don't think I would have. I didn't feel at any point watching.
Yeah, I actually missed the first quarter. How did the first quarter look? Like I read this stuff, but I haven't watched it yet.
They got off to a bad start. They were down 7-0 pretty quick. They didn't play clean. I thought their offensive decision making was very muddled. It was also weird because Towns picks up 2 fouls really quick. So then, I think Thibs had to bring in Mitch much sooner than he expected and probably wanted to. And then because he had to play Mitch earlier than expected, then he had to play Precious a bit too, to kind of buy minutes so that Cat could kind of come in, because he had to manage his fouls at that point. He ends up picking a third by the end of the second quarter, of course. But yeah, I mean, I thought again it wasn't great, and I would hesitate to even call it particularly good from an execution standpoint. Again, really, I thought defensively they were sloppy, and they had a lot of dumb possessions in transition in the first quarter. I thought Josh Hart on one, Brunson on another. Like there's just they got to clean some of that stuff up. But you can live with mistakes, and you can live with some of this stuff when you can see the effort is actually there. And again, it wasn't just one guy; it was multiple guys. And man, OG Anunoby, and he had a couple. I mean, he had a block really early in the game. Bridges was active early in the game. Like they really brought it pretty fast, like early and fast. And yeah, I mean, I was just really pleased to see them win a game like this. And sorry, Brunson, I said 22 on 22 shots. It was actually 23 on 23 shots. But yeah, it wasn't, again, you didn't get some master class from Jalen Brunson. Karl-Anthony Towns had 11 points on 11 shots. Like even like Bridges and Anunoby, right? You're getting 15 on 14 from Bridges, 19 on 17 from OG. Like you didn't have some outlier out of body scoring performance from anybody. And there is something to be said about winning a game on the road against a team. Look, I don't care what anybody says. Obviously, regular season games are not the end all be all. They're not the same level of kind of focus and attention to an opponent's details. But you beat a team 143-106 the way that the Knicks shellacked Memphis a few weeks ago in Madison Square Garden. You better believe that a team, I mean, both teams, 38-20 coming into that game last night, you better believe that Memphis is coming into that game yesterday feeling like, all right, we gotta get, we gotta get our own measure of revenge here for what was probably, I would guess, their most embarrassing.
One thing that was that I find interesting matching up with Memphis is they're obviously a completely different team in terms of how they play, but I think they're similar in a lot of ways. There's outer circle contenders, if you want to be generous, just like the Knicks are, or if you want to be less generous, knocking on the door of contention, but not quite in the room yet. And just like the Knicks, they've had flashes of incredible talent. They have talent on the roster. They got arguably more depth than the Knicks.
I don't think that's arguable.
Yeah. And then I'm being generous this morning. Because I'm in a good mood. You want to know? I'm gonna go on a tangent. I'm on a good mood because there's a place in Washington D.C. run by some New Yorkers whose previous entrepreneurial venture was selling clothing and selling weed, and this place has quality breakfast sandwiches and chopped cheeses. I've never seen a chopped cheese in D.C., so this establishment paid them a visit this morning in honor of the Knicks' victory. They got me in a good mood, so I'm being generous. Anyway, back to the Grizzlies. I think it's I don't actually know any Grizzlies fans, but I would wager that there's a similar type of angst regarding
there is.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with somebody on
totally
Grizzlies Twitter I follow, and it's basically like he basically said the same thing. He was just he tweeted something, and it was just like, I mean, it's basically like anytime they lose, it's the worst thing ever. Anytime they win, it's like, well, this is what we should be doing. So you're just in this annoying spot. I mean, I imagine Nuggets fans are here, although they can always take solace in the fact that they've won a championship already.
Right.
Nuggets fans are there. I'm sure that I'm probably blanking on some fan bases, but
that's why it's the Grizzlies to me, because like the Grizzlies obviously haven't done anything equivalent to the Mikal Bridges. Like they famously are conservative with giving up any of the shit that they have, right? But like it's similar where it's like, like if I was a Grizzlies fan, I'd be like, should we fucking pull the trigger? Do we have to this offensive rebound transition grifter ball? Does it work? Or do we have shoot? Like there's just like directional agita despite them being really fucking good. And like you said, when you're really fucking good, but there's still major questions directionally about what's going on your team, is arguably the most frustrating place for fans because you can kind of see the mountaintop, but you can't. You ain't there yet. And then when you face off against the Knicks, who fucking smacked them, the Knicks systematically are a good matchup. The Grizzlies are a good matchup for the Knicks. The Knicks are a terrible matchup for the Grizzlies. And like if you're a Grizzlies fan, you probably are like, man, we gotta at least hang with these outer circle contenders, right? The Nuggets, the Knicks, whoever. And after to have a lead, to have this big of a rebound possession advantage over the Knicks, and then to just come out on the wrong end of it in the fourth quarter, like God, I know Memphis. I know they was in the hurt locker after that loss, bro.
Well, you know what's funny though is like this is where their sloppiness gets them in trouble. So last night, the Grizzlies had 19 offensive rebounds to the Knicks' 8. Do you know which team attempted more shots? The Knicks.
Was it not the Grizzlies? That's fucking crazy.
The
Oh
Knicks
my
took
God.
one more.
I literally just assumed.
Yep, the Knicks took one more shot than the Grizzlies. The Knicks went 44 of 95 from the field. The Grizzlies went 44 of 94 from the field. And this is why. Because the Knicks had 8 turnovers and the Grizzlies had 18. Like, this is the problem. Like, and this is what. So when the Knicks beat them at the Garden, they had a similarly sloppy performance in terms of turnovers. And in that game, the Knicks shot the shit out of the ball. So they really, really punished them. And I'm not particularly sure exactly why the Knicks seem to be this turnover generating machine against them. I mean, it's 2 games. So it could also just be like, pure randomness there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the Knicks are a solid turnover generating team.
Yeah, they're
in
actually
general. They've just been. If it wasn't for like their recent streak of just totally not giving a fuck on defense, they'd probably be in the top 10 on the year. They were like hovering there for a bit.
They started the season slow in terms of generating turnovers, and they've picked it up since then. So I think they're still kind of like feeling that early season lack of turnovers force. But yeah, I mean, again, like just to get back to the game itself, I thought the Knicks really had to fight for this. And again, this was not a game where any of your starters, you would be like, this is not going to be a signature game for any of the starters. Like, now, obviously, each of them had signature moments. Like OJ Anunoby hits huge late game, like the game-winning shot, basically. Not basically, the game-winning shot. Brunson hits a huge 3 late in the game, and obviously just does various Brunson things for the game. And I got to say, shout out to Brunson. Whatever you want to say about the Knicks defense overall, in some of these horrible losses they've had, I think of late, of the starters, and especially
he's had the best effort by it's that's like for like months now. Like
especially when you just take out Bridges and Anunoby, because I think they're their own separate thing. But like between him, Hart, Cat, he's the one guy where I'm like obviously even when he tries, he's gonna have limitations and things that he fucks up, but the effort is there. And you can always like the level of defense he's playing with is the level of defense that you'll live with from him, because he's always going to give you way more than that offensively. So, none of your starters have some fucking awesome, strong game. Deuce has a really nice game off the bench. Mitch has a really nice, I don't even want to call it a game because he only played 12 minutes, but like those 12 minutes were huge towards the Knicks winning the game.
He was hooping on both
ends. But it took all of that. It took everybody that played, and everybody that played to play with a level of focus and effort and just like a desire to win, and also matching again the intensity that Memphis was playing in, because make no mistake, and also I had to say I enjoyed watching this game because I thought the refs did a really good job. Like I thought they were just like, we're gonna let you guys play. This is going to be like an actual basketball game. We are not going to call, like we're not calling a bunch of soft shit. We're not going to get into super grifter ball tonight. Like it was a very physical, very competitive game. The Knicks also shot less free throws in this game. So like the Knicks had to fucking fight and scratch and claw. And these are the exact type of games against high quality teams where they have too often this season, especially early in games, just let go of the rope and it gets away from them. And they didn't today. Last night.
It's also like, I know he only played 12 minutes, but you mentioned, Mitch having a solid game. Deuce, like we've seen what happens when we'll
talk about Deuce. He he should have played way more. He should have closed the game over fucking Josh Hart.
Yeah.
That's its own thing. We'll talk about that later. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. What I was just gonna say is he ended up playing 28 minutes, right? Which like yes, he should have played more, but that's probably more than Thibs has played him in quite some time. And Shamit gives you 15 minutes of just solid hoops, hit his shots, right? You know he's not gonna cheat you on effort. Um, Memphis has a bunch of players who are either really skinny or really strong. So like the strong guys can give Shamit some difficulty and the quick guys can too, but he was trying out there and just literally having like competent minutes from 3 bench players. Precious only played whatever, right? He should not play, but the foul trouble you mentioned, blah blah blah. Like just having competent bench play, whatever form it takes, right? Rebounding, defense, shooting, effort from 3 bench players, it just gives you a margin that we haven't had just while we've been so shitty. Like you mentioned it, like if Deuce has a bum shooting game like he did in versus Boston, we lose this game. If Mitch is not here and Precious has to play more, we probably lose this game.
I
But
don't think you need to say probably. I think we lose this game. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, exactly. So like it's just refreshing to just have a little bit of fucking margin for error for the starters, right? We know like the defensive stuff is well chronicled, but like the shots weren't dropping. I mean, they ended up dropping a little bit, but like compared to Memphis, they were dropping. Those dudes couldn't shoot for shit. But like it was just nice to be like, damn, like what a luxury is this, man? Like what are we even allowed to do this? This is fucking legal to have guys hoop off the bench. Like I haven't felt this way since Quickly was here. It was fucking awesome. And yeah, I guess the other observation I just wanted to make with Memphis, like I don't they're I've talked about it before, but they're so reliant on the offensive rebounding versus a team like the Knicks because they don't run as many pick and rolls as other teams, that the fact that like you can't not shoot and turn the ball over a bunch versus this Knicks team if you're Memphis and win. And the fact that they turned the ball over a bunch and shot like shit and we're still in it, even though this was an awesome win, like there were still many ways for the Knicks to lose this game. So like the Knicks should embrace the vibe change that this game hopefully produces, but they definitely still got a lot of work cut out for them because not every team is going to be careless like that or shoot like that like shit. Thankfully it was all good and the Knicks were able to hit the big shots down the stretch.
Yeah, they hit a bunch of big shots down the stretch, and again, it was Deuce that one in transition. He hits his last contribution to the game, by the way, was a tremendous shot. But yeah, I do want to get into a little bit of what we saw. One thing that needs to be said, I don't know if Thibs would have used the double bigs in this game at all, just because clearly Mitch is working his way back. And I want to say, as good as I think you could see Mitch's impact, I'm not trying to take anything away from him because it's his first game back. So the fact that he came back and gave you any impact, any positive impact,
right. It's
is
going to take
encouraging.
time.
But like, I think the plus 11 flatters him a little bit in terms of like, I didn't think that, like, it almost, I'll put it this way. In 2 weeks, if the same exact game played out, there's a world where some of the stuff that bounced in the Knicks' favor when he was on the floor doesn't go in their favor. But at the same time, there are plays that Memphis was able to make while he was in the game that in 2 weeks, when he has his legs more under him, I don't think they would have made. And so, like, that is what was encouraging to me, is there was stuff that, like, they got, early in the game when, after he plays for like a minute and a half, where you can already tell, like, the dude has not played NBA basketball in a while. They got like a lob on him at one point. They got a couple offensive rebounds. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm just like, yeah, in like 2 or 3 weeks, assuming he stays healthy and on course, that shit is not happening. Like it's not going to happen. There was some stuff where like they were able to get floaters off that they are not going to get off, right, when he's like back to himself. So that is what was really, really encouraging to me, more so than just like, oh, plus 11, 12 minutes. That, I think, like, some of that was like weird randomness. But there will be plays that he could not make yesterday that I'm positive he will be able to make in time that will make that plus 11 much more sustainable and real. So it was really, really good to see him on the court, and even again amidst like kind of seeing him not be all the way back, just his sheer size is a deterrent, and you could sense that at times. Like I think it was Vincent Jackson or Vince Williams. He had a play where he like threw some bullshit ass pass because he just felt Mitch. Like he's like, oh, I like if that's Cat,
my son Vince was shook out here.
yeah, like if that's Cat, he goes up for a layup, right? And
Rough game for my son Vince. 20 minutes minus 19, by far leading the Grizzlies.
Yeah, he did not have a great game, but
the other way Mitch's size is just like obviously he's taller and all that and has long arms, but like when he just gets into a stance and spreads his arms out like horizontally, even that, it's just like there were some plays where if you don't have your, like if it was Cat who would just like put his arms down his fucking pants or whatever the fuck he does, like Ja Morant would just go straight. But because Mitch is there and with his arms out, instead of going downhill, Ja Morant is in the paint and has to go like take a left turn before he shoots his floater. And like that's basically shooting a fadeaway floater. And yeah, he can make that, but that's a lot harder than a basic downhill floater or a layup. So like just the little things like that. And I tweeted about it, but like it also is gonna, the other person who's gonna benefit a lot from Mitch, and I hope they get to play together a lot, is Mikal. Because we've talked about it. You've pointed it out for years. Like even when his defense is at its best, he can get picked off on screens. This has been true even during his like all defense seasons in Phoenix, where Dallas whomped him in the playoffs just by like getting him, putting him in 1,000 screens with Luka, because he's skinny and he gets around some screens, but like nobody gets around all the screens. But if Mitch is there and the ball handler has to stop for literally like a whole second, that's really all Mikal needs to like get back into play when he's locked in. But if they don't stop, that's the difference between a ball handler. That half second is the difference between a ball handler getting a pick and being at the free throw line, and the ball handler getting a pick and taking one extra dribble after that and being closer to the rim than the free throw line. So like you're allowing Mikal and Deuce and whoever's at the point of attack to just get back into action. And obviously our point of attack defense has been quite a rough spot. I mean, all of our defense has been a rough spot, but I think as we see more Mitch, whether it's him just as the lone big coming off the bench, or if we eventually see double big lineups, either way, it's really going to benefit our guards. So I would expect like some real trickle effect stuff, even as he just works his way back. Thankfully, we got a little bit of time before the playoffs for him to get in shape, like you were alluding.
Yeah, and honestly, I gotta say, it's not even about. I know you're not saying this, but like, it's not about getting in shape. Like he's fat. Like he actually looks really good. Like his physical, like he actually looks lighter.
He looks like a slim 265 according to his Instagram.
I think he looks closer to what he was playing at back in 2020, 2021 than he has since then, where he's been noticeably a bigger boy. He looks, he looks much more, I don't want to say svelte because he's still a gigantic human being, but
I mean, compared to like when he just beasted the Cavs in the playoffs and he was just like Hulk Mitch, and he was probably at least like 275 and just, he wasn't fat or anything. He was just like a fucking big dude out there, right? Like now he's not quite Twigs like young Mitch.
He's probably he's still bigger than Jared Allen, but it's not the pronounced size difference that you could tell in that 23 series.